I felt like in the pre-season we sort of had a top 5 target to begin with, and then we'd sort of evaluate how much we could expect to improve from there. So at the moment we're kind of hitting pretty much bang on around the target for this moment in time. Obviously, we're expecting to make improvements throughout the year, but then likewise is everybody else in the championship. So we've just got to keep our heads focused on the job at hand, and just make the changes we can make and not get too fixated on the outside noise.
Quickly, let's just rewind to Donington Park. A brilliant podium for you, a brilliant podium for the DAO Racing team, there first as well. How pleased were you to get that in the bag so early on in the season?
Yeah, it's good. It's got good signs of maybe what's to come for the rest of the year. Obviously, everybody in the championship is trying to secure a top position right from the get go. But for the team, it sort of indicates the preparation that we've put in for the season, and that they're still even working. From that round to this round, there's a huge amount of work being done in the background to try and facilitate more of these good results. At the moment, I'm sort of enjoying making changes to the bike, and it kind of being a little bit of an unknown as to exactly how it's going to perform. I kind of got to a point with the BM where we'd make a change. We kind of already knew before we started if it was going to be a good one or a bad. Where here it feels like it's a little bit more of experimental on my side at least. We've definitely got a lot of information on Lee's side, because he's already got the year of experience on the Honda and he knows sort of what he's looking for. Where on my side, I'm still sort of finding that sort of sweet spot that I want from the bike. This weekend, obviously, being at Snetterton, we didn't have any pre-event testing, so the first laps ridden here this year for me on a Honda and for the team this weekend. So try not to make it sound like excuses, but it is an excuse, I know. We rolled out, the gearing was a bit off, so it's not that you can't ride the bike, but I didn't feel like I could really push and get the bike working to its limits because the gearing wasn't correct. So for the next session, we got the gearing right, we made some changes to the suspension. The front felt better, but the rear was really giving a lot of trouble, so it wasn't riding over the bumps, wasn't compliant enough. When we made it softer, it felt like on hard acceleration it was sitting too low in the rear and then running wide, so it was kind of like, which one do you go for, the hard and in a good position, or the soft that sort of sits low and runs wide? Spent a long time last night going over all the options and configurations, and I feel like we've probably done a good job with the rear of the bike, but the settings and the adjustments we made to the front was to make the front softer yesterday, to try and accommodate where the rear was at that point. Now we've made the rear better and it's holding position, and it seems to be what I think is in a good range. Now we've sort of like moved our focus back to the front again. It almost needs to put the front back where it was when we first arrived, which in some ways is a good thing, because that means the front was probably in the right range when we got here, but it was just working on the rear. We needed to spend some time, but sometimes you've got to make those changes for the next change to become noticeable.
This is looking fantastic for all the teams and for the riders. Josh, welcome to the BSB fan stage. It's great to see you up here. Season's going well so far, it feels. Podium last time out, looking good on the Honda brand, and the adaptation going well.
As long as I've been in British Superbikes, which is a long time, there's never been any rest. So it's no different now. You've always had to be on the go from the first session on Friday morning. It's kind of been a repetitive comment through teams, is like, we need to be fast first thing Friday morning. We've got we've got to get out of the gate straight away fast. So that's always been the pattern of British Superbikes. It's no different now. It's just there's I feel like the depth of field is a lot deeper than it has been maybe in years ago.
And certainly the pace is hot this year as well, isn't it? We've had lap records at both the circuits we've been to so far, and it looks like it's going to be the same this weekend as well.
Yeah, well, that needs to happen. There's always needs to be progress. You know, obviously the manufacturers are trying to build better bikes. We're trying to make more power. The tyres are supposed to be getting better, you know. So inevitably, year after year, we should be getting, you know, lap records being broken. It's, you know, it's not often and it's not every year, but yeah, you know, with the sunshine out like we have here today, yeah, the track's in great condition, so it makes sense that we're going to be somewhere near lap record pace here.
Wonderful. We look forward to it. Best of luck for qualifying in the race this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Josh Brookes.
Kind of got a little bit messed up in qualifying. One of the mechanics left a speed ring off the wheel. So there's like a little metal disc that bolts to the center of the disc, the braking disc, and it measures the front wheel speed. And the ECU looks at front wheel speed and rear wheel speed and calculates the engine braking control on the way into a corner, so that the bike doesn't skid too much, it doesn't push too much when you're braking. Somewhere in the rush of getting out for the qualifying, this piece was overlooked, and so the computer couldn't see the front wheel speed at all. So it kind of goes into a standby mode, and I went out for the first laps of qualifying, and the bike was like really sideways into all the corners because the engine brake system wasn't working. It was missing that information from the front wheel. So I quickly rushed into the pits, explained what I felt from the bike, and they've immediately looked at the bike and saw that part was missing, made the necessary wheel swap and put the right part on, and I got back out in the session. But just to add salt to the wound, I kind of got messed up with a couple of other riders that were on sort of steady laps because they've already done their best lap and they're just sort of like touring around the course, finishing the session, and I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So yeah, I feel like, you know, it's not like I would have been on the front row or anything. I'm not saying that, you know, someone's really spoiled my day, but I think if I had got a better, cleaner lap, I maybe moved a row further forward in qualifying. And, you know, in racing, every little bit helps. So that's sort of where we're at now. So finished the session, had a debrief with the guys. They're going to make some changes to the front of the bike to try and make it a bit more balanced with what we've changed on the rear. So that should be okay for the race. Lee's not here yet, but when he turns up, he can jump in and have some words to say too. I know it's warm and uncomfortable, but I hate the cold so much. I made a deal with myself never ever to complain about when it's being warm. So I'm going to say I love this and it's perfect. And if it was hotter, it'd be even better. But now more focused on the event itself and the riding and the track. It's been actually a little bit more difficult this weekend than I'd hoped. Donington, we had a really good event, a third place in one of the races for me. So it shows, you know, I still got the ability to go fast on the bikes. But we had a test at Donington prior to that event. So that really made a big difference. We had all the bike in a good working range, turned up to the race and just sort of like fine-tuned a couple of things. And we were there or thereabouts the whole way through. Tyre wear doesn't seem to be an issue this weekend at all. The high temperatures makes the tyre maybe perform a little bit less than its best, but it means that the tyre should stay more or less the same right through the race. There shouldn't be any really big tyre performance issues. And it may seem strange, you know, you think, oh, the hot weather, that's going to really make the tyre work harder. In a way, yes, it's got to experience, you know, higher temperatures, but because the grip level is slightly reduced, the amount of pure grip that the tyre has against the surface of the track has dropped a little, so it doesn't wear the rubber off the surface of the tyre as quickly. So the consistency of the tyre over the race becomes better because that little bit of a drop in performance at the beginning means that the tyre doesn't wear out so quick. It's quite technical sort of details, I know, but I'm sure you like to hear these things and these small things. So anyway, that's sort of enough of me going on. I thought Lee would be here by now. He can't be far away. But whilst he's on his way, has anyone got any questions? We can ask. Go ahead. Okay, so the question is, how much different do I ride the bike at short circuit races versus what I would ride at the TT? So it's actually quite a good question. We get it often and regularly. It's people say, oh, what do you slow back to 90% or 85%? And you're like, no, you ride to 100%, but it's 100% of what you feel comfortable to do. It's not 100% of what's capable of the motorcycle. So if you think about a circuit here, the surface is perfectly uniformed all the way around. It's got a set level of grip almost the whole way around the track. It's very smooth. All the corners are either perfectly on camber or flat, or even the ones in some courses that are off camber. They're always the same. That doesn't change midway through the corner. So basically what you're able to do is take the motorcycle and the tires and the brakes and the chassis and every component on the bike yourself to its absolute limit, where you're about to crash at any moment. And you can take it to that point because the environment you're riding is so controlled and fixed. It's not like something's going to change at a moment's notice and take you by surprise. So you feel confident to go quicker and quicker and find the absolute limit of everything that's in your control. And the person that can go as close to crashing Nelly, but not, is normally the winner. You know, braking the latest, leaning over the most, accelerating the hardest. If you tried to ride like that at the Ironman TT, you wouldn't make maybe 2 or 3 corners, because on the way into the corner, you're going on negative camber, because the road always has camber for water to rinse off the road. So if you imagine a corner, you come from the very outside and then you sweep over to the very inside, and then on the exit, you go back out to the outside. So in doing that one corner, that one process, you go over the camber of the road and then onto positive camber to get to the apex, and then you go up positive camber on the exit and then over the center line of the road to negative camber on the way out. You've changed a whole variety of cambers and positions, not to mention the white lines that are painted. You may have gone over 2 or 3 different sections of tar that have been laid at different year times. There's so many variations in one corner that the bike isn't able to absorb all those variations. So the bike's very out of shape and bounces over all the bumps. So you can't really ride to any extremes of what the bike's capable of. And then if you add to that, if you brake really heavily, the bike will transfer its energy over onto the front and it'll become very nervous. So if you've got a nervous bike that's over its front and then add all these bumps and camber changes in, the bike becomes very difficult to ride. So you have to then slow down to make your apex. And then because you've slowed down at the apex, you have to accelerate hard to make up for the time you've lost. So then all the energy transfers to the rear. You got a lot of load and pressure on the tire. Then the bike starts to wobble and weave and becomes very unpredictable. And then, of course, on the exit, whilst that's happening, you've got to go over all these variations of the course. So you end up with this very uncomfortable riding, very badly behaved motorcycle on very difficult to read terrain. So what we end up doing is riding in a completely different manner. So you roll off the throttle really early, but you don't shut the throttle. You just sort of like roll off the throttle very early. So you're sort of coasting into the corner. And then when you apply the brake, you don't grab the brake. You kind of just sort of like ease the brake on a little bit just to wash some more speed off. And then you sort of float through. And what happens is the bike stays in what we call a neutral position. So it's not on its front or on its rear. It's sort of the suspension's in its perfect natural neutral position, so it can ride over the bumps more predictably. So then when you're on the motorbike, you're not riding a bike that's misbehaving. You're riding a bike that's quite well behaved and riding over the bumps in a predictable way. So then you pick up the throttle earlier than the apex. You don't pick up and you screw the throttle on to accelerate like mad. You kind of pick the throttle up just to build some momentum, and you carry the speed through the corner and then carry that speed on the way out and let it build up. So you end up riding in a very sort of relaxed environment, relaxed manner and nature. So all of a sudden it doesn't feel that dangerous anymore. You're riding a very controlled, slowed down version of your riding. And then I also use a description so people can understand. But if you glued a cup to the fuel tank and filled it with water, and you had to try not to spill too much, if you broke really heavily, the water would spill out the front, and if you accelerated really hard, it would spill out the back. So at the TT, you want to try not to do any sudden movements. You want the bike to sort of flow through all the corners and just sort of be very, very predictable and a neutral position in nature. And that just makes the whole job a lot easier. You can run the suspension a lot softer, so then it rides the bumps easier, and then you'll build more and more speed. And of course, there's a lot of intensity. I've tried to like minimize all the details, but that's more or less an overview what the differences are from riding at TT and the circuit. So what you end up doing is riding to your 100%. It's not 100% of what the bike's capable of, but it's 100% of what you and your bike are capable of on that corner given these conditions. So you always feel like you're riding your maximum. You're not riding at like 95%, sort of like having a look over your shoulder, seeing if anyone's around. You know, it's all like serious, full concentration stuff. But yeah, just a little bit different method of riding. I don't know where everyone else is in their pace, you know, obviously the first race didn't exactly go completely to plan. We sort of got an average start from a very average qualifying position. How much are we selling programs for? Selling programs, working in the media, and going to forge Josh Brookes' signature. Yeah, I've got one. Works well. I think he'd be pleased that someone's doing his work for him. So,
thank you very much.
You're very welcome,
Thank
not
you.
a problem.
Next.
Just need some clientele. Working in the media department of MSVR, British Superbike Championship. My role is actually to hand out the media bibs, but I felt it appropriate to wear a media bib so that the people that had to wear one knew that I was feeling the same energy. It's not just here like doing video footage, but like even at home working, doing anything, work on the car and the phone makes a noise. Before I've seen who it is, I'm really angry. And then like I'll assess how much anger I maintain depending on who it is. But
Can we see who it is?
for video content, we'll see who it is. Staffo.
Oh.
So it's actually not so bad. See, I'm alright. I've reduced my level of anger. We've been working on quite a lot here this weekend is gearing. So at Donington Park, the previous round, we had tests there prior to the event. So we tried all the gearing options and we were very fixed on our gearing. Whereas here, we haven't done any testing here. This is a new bike to me. And it's a new bike as in new Honda to the team. They were running Kawasaki's last year. So we don't have any information about what gearing to run at this track prior from previous years because everything's new. So both Lee and I have been changing the combinations, which that in itself isn't really a big challenge. But also when you change the gearing, you change the sprocket, so then you change the wheelbase, the rear wheel position. So that has an effect on the suspension and so on. So if you move the wheel back in the rear, you put more weight on the front, and then you have to make alterations to the suspension to balance that out. So that's not normally a regular thing. You'd normally go to a race weekend and you'll know the gearing or you have it very quickly, made a decision, and that's sort of put to bed. And then you can just focus on like fine tuning the suspension. With this weekend, we've actually unfortunately spent quite a lot of time making gearing changes, which would normally have been put to bed well before the event. So not to make an excuse, but that's sort of, you know, some of the hurdles we're facing at the moment. But
Hey, Josh, it's great to see you. Welcome to Snetterton under these massive skies. The DAO Racing Honda for this season. Tell me about the season so far.
yeah, every little detail is so critical. Like the difference between, you know, ninth where I finished yesterday and being on the podium was 0.2 of a second per lap. You know what I mean? We're talking fractions of a second per lap is the difference. So, you know, obviously me starting further back on the grid, the bad qualifying, you know, that all, you know, plays a part too. But you just look at the lap times, there's not very much in it. We've just got to find a couple of tenths and we'll be in a better position.
So the end of the Bentley Straight on the chasing the racing BMW F900. Lovely control manoeuvre from Josh.
We went into the second race of the weekend, which is the one we started today. A little bit further up the grid, I was 11th on the grid. So I got a really good start, moved up a couple of places and actually finished the race in 7th. So obviously a good improvement over yesterday. And now I'm starting the next race from 8th on the grid. So, you know, moved up another row on the grid from the start. Now we move on to just general overview of how the weekend's been going. But before we do that, there is something I want to bring up. That is, DAO's Racing has a huge history with the Isle of Man TT, Northwest 200 road racing stuff. This year, particularly, I think it started last year, but they stepped away from road racing to focus purely on the British Superbikes. But I've still got the motivation and wants to race in the Isle of Man TT and Northwest 200. So the race team with Somai and Clarissa have given me the ability to step away, even though I'm an employee of this team. They gave me the luxury of stepping away from my duties here to go and compete at the Northwest 200 and at the Isle of Man TT. But even more than that, they've even had 3 of the staff members that I work with week in, week out here in DAO Racing have come away to work with me at the Northwest 200 and the Isle of Man TT to, you know, make me feel comfortable riding on a, you know, obviously it's a foreign bike compared to my usual BSB bike, but at least I've got familiar faces, people that know me, know what I want from the bike, and I've got confidence in them that they're not going to leave a bolt loose or a brake caliper's not going to fall off or something very dangerous in a street race. So, Somai, if you wouldn't mind coming up here, I've got a gift to present to you as a thank you for making it possible for me to race in the road racing.
Something special.
So this is the helmet that I raced the Northwest 200 and Isle of Man TT with. I did have it livery with DAO Racing visibly on there to show respect of their contribution. But obviously to make a gift of it to Somai and Clarissa now after the events are finished felt like the correct thing to do. So thank you very much, Somai, if you.
And then podium in the British Championships for Australia.
All right, mate, you don't have to go on about it. I've been trying. Yeah, it's taken us a little time to get the hang of it, but step by step, race by race, we'll be getting closer to the front. Not making big strides, but small gains, and yeah, moved another row further up the grid, so hopefully we can make a better race of this one. So weekend wasn't just as nice as we'd hoped after a podium at Donington. We were excited to come back to BSB after the break and get going with good results again, but not having a test at this track really sort of put us on the back foot a little bit. I went like 1.7 seconds faster from practice 1 to practice 2, so that sort of highlights how far off we were when we first arrived. So we did arrive with exactly the same settings as we finished Donington, but Snetterton being a very different circuit, that wasn't, you know, those settings didn't apply here, or at least not very well anyway. So we just went about making changes, particularly the track here probably looks quite smooth and flowing, but there's a lot of ripples in the surface of the track, particularly like turn 1. And those little ripples really set the bike off, made it sort of chatter and bounce and skip on the road. So we spent a lot of time working on trying to make the rear of the bike more compliant over the bumps. And we did make improvements. Every race I worked forward. I think it was 9th in the opening race, and then 7th, and then 6th in the final race. So we are still making progress. It makes it really hard when you start the weekend on the back foot. But yeah, remaining positive, and you know we've got a test at Knockhill before the next round, so hopefully that'll put us in a good position to get going straight away at the next round at Knockhill.